The sword of Orleans hath not made me smart. These words of yours draw lifeblood from my heart. On that advantage, bought with such a shame, to save a paltry life, and slay bright fame. Before young Talbot from old Talbot fly, the coward horse that bears me fall and die. And like me to the peasant boys of France, to be shame's scorn and subject of mischance, surely by all the glory you have won, and if I fly, I be not Talbot's son. Then speak no more of flight, it is no boot. If son to Talbot, die at Talbot's foot. Henry VI, Part 1. That is from the end of Act 4. This just classic scene between the son of this great warrior named Talbot. They're both on the field of battle, fighting against Joan of Arc. Talbot's like the best general that England has at the time, and this is this kind of super. I just, it's like so at the core of being a son and being a father. Like the prospect of being in the trenches and saying, no, you got it, you have to leave, you have to get out of here. And it's, yeah, neither one wants, both of them want the other to go and not die. But neither's going to leave the other to die. And it just gets me. Like the first time I read this play, it was just like, if you read that part of the story or see that they have the scene in the BBC Hollowcrown that I've been watching, you just can't not feel feelings when you watch that. It's just so good. And maybe it's just because we're so close to Father's Day being last week. It's just like hits me right when the feels. And it's actually kind of so Shakespeare wrote the histories relatively close to when he was writing the sonnets. It was early in his career. And you can hear lots of echoes of the sonnets in this particular passage. It's this back and forth argument between the father and son that is rooted in logic. Like the son is like, no, I can't leave. You have to leave. Like you're the good. You're our hope. You're the only hope we have against the French. I'm just some idiot kid that I'm not good at anything. And so it's this, like this conundrum, right? Like, is the value of one life more than the other? And I think it's perfectly obvious to Talbot Sr. that why the hell what does it matter if I live? I'm going to die in 10 years anyway. You have to go and you have to leave. You have 30 years of life ahead of you, 20, 30 years of life ahead of you. You have to live. I'm going to die anyway. But then young Talbot's like, no, you're the worthy one. I'm worthless. I haven't done anything. And they bring in the concept of fame and legacy and, Talbot Jr. is saying, if I die here and you get away, I'll have at least that going for me. I won't be a coward. I won't have died a coward. And that kind of romantic value placed on dying a good death, even though at the end of the day, legacy and all that, it's not even really in your control, right? You're making decisions about your life based on what others are going to think, and that's not in your control. So I don't know, just lots of interesting things to think about with that, all wrapped up in this super personal, it doesn't get any more simple than a father and a son being I can't leave you here. And that's what I like so much about Shakespeare, is that they can he so effectively writes philosophy and politics but in his best writing, it's so deeply rooted in a personal story that you can't help but feel for it. And that's like, there's plays and stories and movies and stuff that are less personal stories and can still be really powerful. They can still have a really powerful social message or deal with philosophy or deal with politics. But that is a style to instruct through through storytelling, and to almost remove the personal element in order to instruct, so the personal doesn't distract you from what we're trying to instruct. And I just don't agree with that. I think that that's a cop-out. I think that the best storytelling is super personal, and you can do both, and that's what Shakespeare does. So yeah, this was Henry VI Part 1. I'm going to continue watching The Hollowcrown. I'm surprised at how much The Hollowcrown actually changed. They conflated one of my favorite characters, Suffolk, who makes Margaret the Queen of England, who becomes Margaret of Anjou, the she-wolf of France, is like this wonderful character. There's very much echoes of Cersei Lannister, if you like Game of Thrones. It's super strong female character, and the Suffolk Margaret relationship. Margaret becomes the Queen of England, so she's married to King Henry, but she's in love with Suffolk. So it's that kind of secret romance that they have. So I'm looking forward to getting to Henry VI Part 2, because that's where that stuff really heats up, gets interesting. Yeah, it's just a good story. It's amazing. It's like it's history. It's dramatized to an extent. It's not, Shakespeare made a good story out of it, but the guts of it is just the history of people. So it's been fun to dive into it, and I'm excited to keep working on the history. So yeah, I'm going to do Henry VI Part 1, 2, and 3, and then Richard III. And it's always fun to, we have like the Star Wars, trilogies and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, these like big, massive, interconnected stories set in one universe. Shakespeare was doing it in the 1500s, that's the histories are so cool because of that, because you just go from like one massive epic, but it's one part of a 4-part super epic. So yeah, I always have fun going back to the histories. So yeah, that was Henry VI Part 1, Talbot Jr. and Talbot Sr. right in the feels. Happy Sunday.